What is going on, YouTube? Man, today we are reacting to how the rules have changed regarding traveling and dribbling. I noticed it says part 3, so I assume it's a series on my guy's channel over here. But on this channel, we've been watching a lot of older classic NBA content, learning about that Michael Jordan, Larry Bird era. I didn't get to watch because it just wasn't from my era, man. I'm a big LeBron fan, and LeBron was my era of basketball that I watched, you know what I'm saying. But I got suggested and recommended this video by a friend of mine, you know what I'm saying? And so I was like, I have to react to it because he's like, nah, just the rules have changed so much since then, and let's, actually see what they are, you know what I'm saying? So, let's just get right into the video, man.
46-45. And Jordan called for a travel. Pippen getting to it. And a traveling violation call. Devon's called for steps. Side of the floor. Traveling violation on Smith. Paxson lost the grip. Lakers look to break. And a traveling violation called on Magic Johnson.
This is obviously a continuation of the series called Changing the Rules for Jordan. Now we're moving on from the hard hits and the fouls and all that to other rules like traveling. You know how I like to go back and watch the old finals? Well, those clips that I just showed, I pulled from one game. And that was the finals.
That's
and
it?
those were stars getting called. The reason I mention that is to point out how easy it would be for me to go back and get a ton of examples from the past. This is one game, and they're even calling it on the stars in the finals.
My impression of LeBron fans explaining that us old school basketball people just don't understand the game. You idiots call that a travel. It's called a gather step. You've got your gather step, your pre-gather, your post-gather, then you've got 2 steps after that, and then you have a hop, which really isn't even a step if you think about it legally.
You hear weird things come out of the mouths of people these days trying to explain why it's okay to take way more steps than people ever took in the past. So
I'm not gonna lie, that was a pretty bad clip of Braun there. That did look like a travel, I'm not gonna lie.
An episode like this gets way more complicated than it should be because we have to look at, okay, are we talking about how people are interpreting a rule? Are we looking at the fact that the NBA has changed some language? Okay. Are we looking at the fact that, no, it really is traveling, it's just not being called? And finally, if it's not traveling, then what were all those NBA players doing back then? You know, why weren't people taking advantage of the fact that you could take several more steps? Clearly that's going to help you get to the hoop. You have to go into a pretty serious level of denial, just delusion, to think that professional athletes playing in the NBA for a long time, and not just your regular players, you're talking about the top players that understand the game better than anyone else, didn't know that there were more steps to take. And apparently the refs didn't know it either, because they're calling these guys for taking like half a step. However you want to try and justify today's NBA, clearly something changed. When it comes to taking steps, players are getting away with more than they used to. Now that is changing rules.
Do we believe this, chat? Do we really think this is what's happened over time in the NBA?
In favor of someone. That is giving someone a new advantage. So throw all the semantics out the window. You made things easier. So you can't say that they changed rules for Jordan when they actually have made things easier for players since Jordan's time. If anything, the opposite of what these people are claiming is true. Okay. And why, with all the declarations about these are superior athletes, why would you make things easier for people who are superior? Shouldn't they be making the rules harder? Just a reminder of how many more topics we need to cover. They changed the rules for counting assists to make it easier for people to have an assist counted. They have changed the rules for what you count as a rebound or don't count as a rebound. Hand checking is gone. You know, you can't even imagine how much that's changed things. Personally, I'm willing to put money that the flopping thing is still not going to be enforced worth a crap. The fact that the league had to come out with official rules about how to punish people that are flopping shows you how far the league has fallen. A rule like this didn't used to be necessary because people weren't interested in flopping. They were interested in simply defeating the enemy honestly. It certainly doesn't help people understand better when today anyone can post whatever their opinion is on the web, declare it as a fact, and have other idiots spread it until enough people see it and they also decide that it's fact. Look at this one. What is Metro League? I don't know. I don't want to spend time bashing on them, but look at their interpretation of the gather step. The gather step can be taken before taking 2 steps. You can take a few steps before taking 2 more if you want to shoot a basket. A few more? You can take a few steps.
Okay, so it's not very clear. Is this what we're understanding? Like, okay.
What does a few even mean? You know, I can't take you seriously when you're not even going to use a specific number. Now instead of understanding the rules, I've got to go and look at the definition of a few and then wonder if that's even the definition that they're referring to. Something else I don't like about the word gather. You're referring to when the player gains control of the ball. Well, isn't that subjective? Who gets to decide when they've gained control? Or is it the act of gaining control? There's a way to simplify this, and that's to go to the NBA rulebook. So can we all agree that we're not going to go argue about street ball rules or high school rules or college rules or Europe rules, whatever direction you're going to try and take off with? We're going to talk about the NBA. Right. And as much as I wish that would simplify things, anytime something says new language has been added, like, oh man, does this mean language that has to be interpreted? Which means that it's up to
the added language surrounding the rule rather than clearly defining it.
Who interprets it and how they interpret it? But I'll go back to this. If the new language allows things to get easier, well, you made things easier for these new, more impressive athletes that should be getting the rules made harder on them, if anything, since they're superior.
Do we not think that these newer areas are still pretty challenging? There's a lot more all-stars, I feel like, now in modern day than there were back then. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's more all-stars.
This is even worse than I thought, because in part 3 of section B of talking about gathering, they use the word enough, otherwise gains enough control. Well, who gets to define enough? We have another subjective word. This one's pretty straightforward. He doesn't dribble at all and then takes, good God, how many steps did he take? Under the traveling section, B, a player who gathers the ball while progressing may take 2 steps in coming to a stop, passing, or shooting the ball. Or if he has not yet dribbled 1 step prior to releasing the ball. LeBron did not dribble. Therefore, he only gets 1 step.
Chat, bro. Not the greatest video, bro. Yeah. And that's just all the rules there.
Let's go to section 2 under dribbling. A player shall
So they let him get away with it, basically. That's what he's trying to state here, I think.
not run with the ball without dribbling it.
Run!
C, a player may not dribble a second time after he has voluntarily ended his first dribble. Now, we're going to have arguments about when the dribble was ended. This is why I don't like the idea of when a ball has come to a rest. While LeBron is being featured here, I do acknowledge that many players get away with this. The question is, have they made the rules easier or harder? Maybe a more accurate question is, have they stopped blowing the whistle? The rules are basically still the same, but they just don't blow the whistle to make things easier. And the reason LeBron appears so often is I don't think the guy can handle the ball without traveling and carrying. Even if you want to defend modern ball handling, someone that you declare as the best should not have the rules changed to where he can now...
I mean, you can dribble the ball and whatnot, take multiple steps. That's not necessarily that's not a travel.
Dribble like a kindergartner. Grab it, stop, restart, whatever you need, LeBron.
Exactly. Like,
D, a player who is dribbling may not put any part of his hand under the ball and carry it from one point to another, or bring it to a pause and then continue to dribble again. Okay, so now we argue about when exactly the hand is under the ball. You know, when I was coached, you couldn't even come near it. I don't even think you could side dribble. Maybe I was coached wrong. Maybe I was coached a little bit too strictly. But either way, we're a long way from that. Not even comparable. Actually just got back from a pickup game and I closed out on this kid who picked up his dribble and then he just started dribbling again.
Curry!
And nobody said anything, which means I can't say anything. You know, when you get to stop and start like you're a 4-year-old on a Nerf playground, yeah, that makes it easier.
Do we think that carrying is a rule that's not enforced as much in modern day? I honestly, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I kind of agree with that. I feel like a lot of players nowadays do carry the ball, and it's not getting called.
You can't say that it doesn't make it easier when you reduce the rules to childlike shit. I thought to myself, if I'm going to play out here, I have to reteach myself to learn to cheat. I have to actually break all the rules that I was taught. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it based on principle alone. So if we focus on part 2, a player who is dribbling may not put any part of his hand under the ball and bring it to a pause. Are people going to argue that you can bring it to a pause as long as the hand isn't under the ball? You know, if we go back to part 1, it says you can't carry it from one point to another. LeBron carries the ball from one point to another all the time. He like literally carries the ball across from one side of the defender over to the other side of the defender before continuing the dribble after that.
He just has big hands though, so it looks like it. But I can see him like curving it around or something. You know what I'm saying?
So are we going to argue that it's not a travel just because of his hand position, even though the ball came to a rest and was moved from one point to another? I mean, if you're going to argue that, how are you not also arguing that they've made things easier? Just admit that they've made things easier. Personally, no matter who's in this photo, the fact that that's a professional athlete dribbling, not passing, is really unfortunate. One closing example, I might be the only one who noticed this, but LeBron gains control of the ball with 2 hands, right there, brings it to a rest, then continues dribbling while shoving the defender out of the way.
I think that's just Braun protecting the ball with his other hand so the opponent doesn't get it. I think this guy, I don't know if this guy knows what he's talking about here.
Nothing about that's legal. It's bad enough that he gains control using 2 hands, but then he cradles the ball under his right arm as he forearm shivers the smaller defender out of the way before continuing on with the rest of its completely illegal offensive bag. The most interesting thing about watching LeBron on offense these days is counting how many illegal things the refs will let him do in one possession. But yeah, they made things easier for Jordan. No, honestly, you old heads, you just don't understand the rules. Got to be one of my favorite things going on right now. Idiots who preface their statements by saying, honestly, if you think about it, I mean, really, if you think about it, to be honest, I'm just saying. And as if all those phrases make
Come on, man.
whatever garbage comes out of their mouths next true. Of course, I'm being facetious. That is not one of my favorite things. That is one of the most annoying things. Oops.
I'll be honest, from like the clips that he was showing, I kind of see what he's saying of how that older era basketball, they might have called a lot of more stuff.
I said facetious. I can't use words like that for the LeBron fans watching. I'll try to keep my vocabulary to 2-syllable words or less. Honestly. Oh, shit. That has 3 syllables, doesn't it? The more I read this Metro League page, the more I realize they are all over the place. This is some weird stuff. And I'm not gaining anything by ripping on them. The point is that this was one of the top results when you search for traveling rules.
I didn't know that.
And
top
it's
Google
just
result was wrong.
really bad information. And it's a top result. You see how dangerous this is? If you are dribbling the ball, it is important to keep track of how many steps you have taken. Why?
It is, of course it is.
Steps don't matter while you're dribbling. How many steps can you take in basketball without dribbling? A player.
Once you pick it up, like, and you're already moving, like 1, 2, you have to put it up before you step, because if not, it's a travel, right? Very simple. But I can travel and take 1,000 steps if I wanted to.
Can take more than 3 steps without dribbling the ball if they gather it before taking 2 steps. Okay. I mean, this is so mixed up. Now I have to approach it from multiple angles. First of all, we're talking about not even bothering to dribble. So how do you get a gather step if you weren't even dribbling? So I get to like throw the ball up in the air, take a step and grab it again. Now I have gathered the ball and I can take more than 3 steps. After that, their wording is so bad. I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Well, what do we think about this video, man? I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I can kind of see how they were calling more stuff back then, and now a lot of things slides. But how different were the eras? I'm not sure if it was like an immense thing, you know what I'm saying? But y'all tell me down below what y'all think, if these eras were actually vastly different in your opinion. But this is the end of the video again, you know what I'm saying? So if you haven't already, hit that like button, let me know, show that support, you know what I'm saying? Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more content. And I'm gonna see y'all next time, man. But y'all have a good day.